Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Divine Union podcast. And if this is your first time tuning in for this special episode, you are in for a treat. Welcome. I'm thrilled to have you because today we're going to be talking about how these so-called differences between men and women, how they're actually culturally conditioned due to some of the systemic influences throughout the years, throughout our history as a human race. And I'm really excited to talk about this. This is a great precursor to, I'm actually doing a virtual live workshop for feminine beings on the 19th on the father wound, where I will dig into this topic and also the father wound and how it manifests for women, different ways it shows up within and in relationship. And I'm actually doing a workshop co-ed for those in Chicago on the 23rd of April on the father and mother wound. And I'm really excited because even and as we go into some of this societal influences on these wounds and on how we relate to each other as men and women, masculine and feminine beings. I'm so passionate about this because if we want to have true intimacy and relationship, we that comes from resonance. That comes from deeply, you think about when you resonate with someone, a friend tells you a story, you feel so connected to them because you're like, yes, I've been there. I get you. Or maybe I haven't been in the exact situation, but I understand what you're going through. That's resonance. And when we don't feel resonance with our fellow partners, men and women, you can't truly have intimacy. And we all are human first. We're all a product of the system. We all come from the same place. So this work serves to unwind the division because the division is a product of the system. And I still don't often use the word patriarchy, but patriarchy, it's a system that impacts men and women. So men aren't to blame. Every man, right, that you see on the street, they're not to blame. And it's understanding it's a system and it's going to take time to unwind that system. And so, I mean, you start off, you think about, and I'm still learning, this topic is deep, but I'm going to give some influences. Hunter-gatherer societies, as we were in hunter-gatherer societies before we moved to agricultural society, many women used to mate with multiple partners so that they would have multiple partners and so that their partner wouldn't know who the father was of their children. And they did that so that they could also maintain the sense of um, autonomy. Yeah, not be viewed as private property. So there wasn't ownership over this is my woman, these are my children. So they would mate with many partners, and the partner wouldn't actually know whose children are who. And all of the folks in the village would take care of the children. And as we shifted to agricultural society, an agricultural society would happen. Private property. Yeah, your land begins here, your land ends here. My land begins here, my land ends here. Same thing with my partner. You are my private property. This is my wife. And so this already created this shift in gender roles among men and women. And and I say this because we often say, oh, men are the ones that need freedom, men are the ones that crave novelty, multiple partners, feminine beings are more aligned to one relationship, more seeking of connection, but that's not true. That's actually conditioned into us based on these shifts and some of the dynamics at play. So as we evolved, come the Industrial Revolution, many men went to go work in the factories. Many women did too, but it was mostly men. And the women were mostly relegated to the home life. So this created this division of labor among men and women. And it also created these separate spheres of the work sphere versus the home sphere. And it created some dissonance for men. This is my work sphere. This is where I come home and provide for the family. And the way that we navigate childcare in our world with birth control, a lot of that. mm, so, birth control is something that they did test on men, and they ended up mentioning that there were too many side effects. So, it's something that then ended up being on the women's onus. So, what do you think about birth control? And primarily, childcare falls on the feminine being. Yeah. And we're not judging here. We're not pointing fingers. I love both parties. I'm here to neutralize and bridge the divide. So I want to, for anyone listening who might be starting to get triggered, I would love for you to let me finish my thought here. So what happens is childcare mostly falls on the feminine being, like the actual labor in the house, taking care of the kids, maybe not providing financially. Definitely not taking care of the kids. Financial providership falls on the masculine. And so women, right, they're conditioned to, be the caretakers and be a good mother and take care of the kids. And one influence of that is they end up losing their sense of identity as a sensual being, as a sexual being, because they identify now as a mother and their kids become their life, right? And be a good mother. There's so much conditioning. Be a good mother. Sacrifice yourself for your kids. This is why so many mothers, guilt themselves into overgiving, overextending in the childcare. And the masculine has a lot of pressure around providership because in our society, we're in a capitalistic society and men's value comes from how much money they make, right? And imagine that pressure. It's like, oh, how much money you make now. I don't know who's listening here, but have you ever been in a position where you've been financially unstable? I know I have. What happens with that? You know how scary that is? Can you imagine having to take care of an entire family? Having to sacrifice your desires, doing what you love so that you can provide for your family, the kind of pressure, and stress that causes in the body? It's tremendous. And so, and it's conditioned, right? Because the masculine's the one that has to provide. That's their story. That's their conditioning. Men have to provide. You have to be the ones to lead. You have to be the ones to initiate. You have to be the ones to take care. Hold space for her and her emotions, even though you can't feel your own. And so, in this dynamic, this push and pull, right? With the staying on this childcare thread, I know we're going into some different ones here. So the feminine being, she's been conditioned not to work, or they don't, we're so used to not working when you have kids. So what happens? It creates dependency. Now, naturally, dependency, you're going to seek safety and stability and security from your partner, the masculine. Now, in any situation where there is a dependency, what happens? The person that is providing, they end up feeling boxed in and constricted. That's why the masculine can often feel, ooh, constricted by the feminine, seeking freedom, needing to get away, exhausted. It feels heavy. And so that's conditioned into us based on these roles, based on the system. And over time, then people start to put labels and boxes on the feminine. And, feminine's the one that needs the connection, is emotional, but the masculine's the logical and, the one that's independent. But that's not true, right? There are women who are logical, there are men who are emotional. We're all conditioned, though, into uh, still this distorted masculine energy of we're not really allowed to feel our emotions. So many men don't have an outlet to express their fear, their worry, their angst, their doubt, their stress. They feel like they got to have it all together, got to have it all figured out, be a man, right? We judge each other on the basis of gender. We use gender to shame each other. Yeah, a real man wouldn't do this. You're not in your divine masculine, or you're not conscious enough, right? You're too weak. Men aren't, don't be a pussy. It's like you already were a man, so are a man. So why do you need to prove it? And then you think about hazing in college for young boys, and they have to just prove their masculinity based on how much they're drinking. I mean, it's crazy. And they're feminine beings. It's don't 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 be too loud or bossy in the workplace. You're going to come off as a bitch, but don't be a pushover either, because then you're going to be weak. Right? To be a good girl, be well liked, be uh, let him lead, let him make the first move. Men have active desire. Women have responsive desire. None of this is true, because then it actually stops you from feeling into what do you want to do in a given moment, what feels true, and aligning to that. Instead of aligning to what should I do as a man? What should I do as a woman? How should I show up based on what I'm told, based on how I'm supposed to act? And this is why the key is for me, and everyone has to feel into their own alignment. You have to feel into what feels true for you. Maybe you're a woman and you still want your partner to provide. Maybe not, right? We all have to feel, and I can't be the one to tell you, but this is why I am a deep proponent of radical sovereignty and each person taking care of themselves, because when we do, that is how we have two whole people choosing each other time and time again. And when we don't, we sacrifice love for codependence and a false sense of safety and security. And that kind of love doesn't feel good for both sides. Doesn't feel good for anyone. And when we are conscious of these greater systems, the media shaping our likes and dislikes, and books, shaping how men and women are different. So many books and polarity teachers, it recreates division in our world. And we are not divided. We are all human first. We are all one. And if you're one of those that always says we are one, but you think men and women are different, then that invites you to question, do you really feel we are one? We are all human being. No human being should have different basic needs than another. It doesn't make sense. Our human experience, themes, desires, everyone wants to feel ravished. Everyone should be able to exercise their ravishment. Everyone wants to feel taken care of and safe. And everyone should be able to feel that from each other, to lean on each other. Everyone should be able to express their emotions, their angst, their grief, their sadness. And we put man in place of God, because our true provider is God. And many of us are disconnected from our faith in a deeper embodied way because we don't actually have faith in God. And so we put that faith in man to take care of us and protect us as feminine beings or as masculine beings in your own self, putting that faith instead of a higher power. And it's something I'm actively working on right now at this point in my life too, is how do we take aligned action to be the co-creator of our lives? This is not an excuse to say don't. It's very important. And knowing that there is something greater and that you are taken care of and provided for on a spiritual level and physical. Unphysical. It's everything. And that God is the ultimate masculine. And that allows us to all surrender, right? Because one element of distorted masculine energy, which again, we're all a product of the system, men and women, is control. This belief that I have control over my life. I have control only over how I show up and respond to life. I don't have control over how other people respond to me. I don't have control over certain things that unfold. I don't have control over you, partner, and how you show up. Right? And when we think we have control, that's when we go shaming, blaming, mothering, fathering, guilting, manipulating, all the things that we want to do to get our partner to rise to meet us because we want to control them to show up in the way we desire because things have to unfold in that way. But if we feel at a deeper level secure in ourselves and whole in ourselves, that need to control doesn't feel as strong because we know at a deeper level that we can take care of ourselves and that we're taken care of by something greater. And this way, if your partner were to leave you, or the relationship were to dissolve or to take a new shape, you don't have to control it. You can show up the best that you can, and that is enough. And it's through when we are around each other, trying to find the parts in the other that you have within. And if something activates you, so if you're activated by your partner's emotionality, maybe you're a feminine being, and maybe you don't want to hold space for your partner like bouncing ideas off you. It makes you feel like they're indecisive, and that feminine energy maybe turns you off. Then feeling it, ooh, I'm judging them for like wanting to also exercise that collaborative energy. And if you're a masculine being and you're judging your feminine partner for their emotions, maybe you feel like they're too emotional or sensitive, where are you not letting yourself feel, though, that side of you? Or where are you resentful because maybe they don't let you feel that side of you? And then how do you give that to self? We have to give it to self. We can't expect partner to meet us if we're not holding ourselves in that. And this is why I'm also really excited to dig into the father wound and the mother wound because it's so much deeper than this. But it's also looking at those patterns of how our father and mother showed up and how that impacts how we view ourselves as feminine and masculine beings. And noticing what are those impacts and rewiring that. And also knowing, ooh, they're also a product of the system. So whether they showed up and were disrespectful to us or didn't validate us or shamed us or blamed us or manipulated us or guilted us into things or mocked us, became enraged by us, overpowered us, whatever it might be, that they learned they're operating under learned behaviors. Maybe they don't have the consciousness or the tools to break beyond. And any work that you do on this front, whether your father or mother has passed or is not alive anymore, maybe you're not even in connection with them at the moment or not on speaking terms or not in the same state, it doesn't matter. You can do this work energetically because the work is with self. It's clearing and forgiving and doing this inner work and having greater awareness. And when you do that, you clear your own path for your karma, baby, for your future, for your next life. You do it for the love. We do this for the love. We don't do this for the other person. And that's hard. That's not an easy thing. That's a brave thing. I'm going to keep my heart open for the love. I can't tell you how many times I've been betrayed, disrespected continuously, but I do it for God, for who I be, for how I embody what I desire. I treat people with how I want to be treated, despite how they're showing up, because this is how we teach the world. It's how we teach people how we want them to relate with us. And people, you can melt anyone with love over time. And this is also why balance of our masculine and feminine energy is so important, because we need that strong masculine core, whether you're a man or a woman. Healthy masculine, so it's reprogramming what is healthy masculine energy, because we're conditioned into distorted masculine energy in our world. Domination, aggression, control, force, wounded, which many of us have within. Yeah, it's okay. But what's healthy masculine is holding yourself. It's that groundedness, those roots of a tree, holding yourself through challenge, through hard times. God, I really want to lash out right now. I really want to break down right now. I got you, Nicola. It's okay. I know you're not doing it for them. I know it hurts when you're continuously disrespected, especially in public. It's okay. You have nothing to prove. You are perfectly whole and divine as you are, and no one can tell you otherwise. And with that, it's remembering that everyone is a divine mirror for us. Our soul chose them to help us alchemize and move through our tikkun, our soul's correction in this lifetime. So if you wonder why you have the mother or father that you have, why you have the siblings you have, why you're in certain kinds of relationships, look at that and say, what is this here for me? What is this doing for me? What is the lesson? What am I here to learn? What am I here to overcome? Right. And it takes that discernment, that sensitivity of feeling into, does that mean I take an action and leave that relationship? Or is the work for me to alchemize within? And that's something only you can know through being in it. But certain relationships, family, you're there for a reason. You were born into these family dynamic with the most closest people in your life that could potentially hurt your self-esteem or wound you for a reason. What are they here to teach you? And the we are all the same removes any sort of division, not even with masculine and feminine, but when we judge people and not seeing those parts within self. And when we do that, what happens? God actually gives us something that's similar to them to have to deal with. That's what happens when we judge, to show, oh, you think you're better than that person, instead of viewing everyone as a human being. and divine. And the ego helps us in many ways. We need the ego to move forward in life. But when the ego gets into that place of I'm better than you, another human being, it doesn't serve us. It comes back to bite us. It does. You give them your blessing and you actually take away yours. And so it's just giving, operating from seeing everyone as beautiful, divine people, as mirrors, understanding that there are many things that impact how we view each other as men and women in our world, some of the systemic influences that impact how we relate, and how the key to that is understanding that. And then how do I strengthen self and come from a place of true sovereignty so that I feel secure within? Because no one feels good being dependent. And knowing that the only true dependency is your dependency on God. And God does work through people, but always maintaining that connection to God and that faith with God and still being grateful to people who give you blessings in your life. And questioning when you start to go into a program of assumption or projecting something on your partner based on their gender, of how they should show up, and question that. And how would you feel if you were them? Both sides. And finding ways in conflict to communicate heart to heart instead of judgments. How do we just speak from the heart? That didn't feel good. Why did you make that comment? Why, whenever you say you'll do something, do you not follow through with it? And or avoid me whenever I ask you about this topic. Like, start to talk about the actual thing instead of just making judgments. Don't make judgments about people's masculine or feminine, using that as a way to shame. It doesn't feel good. Hmm. And I'm excited for what's to come because our world is a changing. There's so much stuff about this topic and so much more to be had. I have so much more to share on this topic. And we are getting to a place where we are having more consciousness about intimacy. And that means more capacity to deepen intimacy. When I was a kid at 7 years old, people always say, when you're at 7 years old, that's when you know, like, that's when you start to, whatever you start to dream about is like what your dharma is, what you're supposed to be doing. And I always used to dream about two people merging into the cosmos, this deep state of intimacy and oneness and connection. I was like, there has to be a way to have deep connected intimacy like that. And here I am, still talking about it. So I'm excited for what is coming, what is possible. And yeah, you want to hear more on this topic? Join me on the 19th and the 23rd. I would love to have you. Have a gorgeous, gorgeous day or a beautiful night. I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine.